1.21 gigawatts. Great God!
Shall we play a game?
Would you like a jelly baby?
Engage auto systems.
Aye. Engaged.
Clear all moorings.
Cleared, sir.
1/4 impulse power.
You know how to fly, don't you?
No. Do you?
You shall not pass!
Before we get started, does anyone want to get out?
Down here, it's our time. It's our time down here.
The Force will be with you, always.
Hi, and welcome to the Geek Hangout podcast. My name is Mark, and I am joined tonight, as always, by my good friend and co-host, Grant. How you doing tonight, Grant?
Hey, Mark, I'm doing great. Hi, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to the newest episode of Geek Hangout podcast. I've lost track of our number as of right now.
I think we're 58.
58. All right.
Yeah.
That's good. We're getting there. That's a pretty high number.
I know.
I know, right?
We're hanging in there.
So we thought we'd jump into it tonight and oops, as I'm knocking stuff over. We thought we'd come to you tonight and catch up on everything that's been going on in the Geek Hangout land.
Yeah.
And just give you our thoughts on what's new and going on. But first, we always like to see what we've been up to and throw it over to you, Mark. What have you been up to? What's been going on lately?
All right. Well, I'm still plugging away at various video games. I am still playing that Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword that I started like months ago.
That's been a long time now, right?
Yeah, at last check, I've been playing it for 70-some hours or something like that. But I think this week, last night, in fact, I reached the final dungeon.
Oh, okay.
So I'm almost there. I expect by the next time we have a podcast, I will have gotten through that game and probably started another. So I'm kind of excited about that, and I have to say, I am getting a little tired of it. I'm sort of ready for it to be over, but it's like I've got that far. I got to finish this, right?
Right. It's just like a TV show. You're like, I put in 3 seasons. I better do that. I can finish it off, Yeah.
And it's not like I'm not enjoying it, but it's just like there's especially at the end. There's been a lot of they do these fetch quests, I guess, where it's like you're just doing a lot of I have to go get this thing and bring it back over here so that I can do something else. And that just gets a little after that long that you've been playing the game, that stuff starts to get a little old.
Right. After 70 hours, you're like, all right, where's the bad guy? Where's the
boss?
Right.
I just want to fight the boss and be done here. So that's kind of where I'm at. But hopefully that'll be done soon. I got really cool. One of my Christmas gifts was I got there's these 2 games that Microsoft put out a couple of years ago, and it's Ori and the Blind Forest and Ori and the Will of the Wisps.
Okay.
And there's this company that's it's called I Am 8-Bit, and they made a collector's set. I really like those games, and they made a collector's set for those 2 games. So that was one of my Christmas presents, and I got that. So I've been playing those games. They're a lot of fun. And then just odds and ends here and there. My son and I went game shopping. I bought a new Sega Genesis console, so I have that.
Wait, is a new one or one of the old ones?
Well, it's an old.
Oh, okay.
It's a retro Sega Genesis console.
I got it right.
Yeah, so I have one of those now, which I'm kind of excited about. And that collection just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
Right.
I have one of those now, and then we went game shopping over the weekend, and I picked up this old Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle games.
Yeah,
are usually, most of them were pretty good, and they're pretty highly reviewed, and they can be tough to get now. The old, the original, the Nintendo. Yeah. The original Nintendo, the Super Nintendo, those games. They were usually beat 'em ups, you're walking around fighting people. Actually, it's like a side scroller. And
I
beating various.
I think I remember one of those.
Yeah, there was an arcade game. There was one. There's one you could play in the arcade.
Maybe that's what I'm remembering. Is the one. Yeah, there used. I think at one point wasn't there. Maybe I'm. Well, remember that game Gauntlet? It was like,
yeah,
I think there's a version of that with like the 4 joysticks, and you could play as, you could all play as 4 turtles or something like that.
Yeah. I think that right. And so they port like a lot of it, like those arcade type games, they ported over to home consoles and stuff like that. And those games are generally considered pretty good. And now they're kind of tough to get. Like they're hard to get. So I just got one over the weekend. So I'm kind of excited. I was playing it.
Yeah, that's fun, right?
Yeah, and it is. It's a fun game. Like I was down there. I wasn't expecting much from it, but I was down there playing it for a couple hours. Like I was like, this game's kind of fun.
Right.
It was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, like the Manhattan Project or something.
Okay.
And,
all right.
Yeah, so that was kind of fun. So
yeah, I can't remember that many of the subtitles of the games. I do remember playing some of them though.
Yeah. There's one for the Super Nintendo. That's my next. That's what I'm setting my sights on right now. It's called Turtles in Time.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah, I remember the name of it. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a considered pretty good game. So I'm going
that's
to be
cool.
looking for that next. But anyway, that's kind of what I've been up to. Not much else other than that. Here in the Northeast, it's just cold now.
Cold, and I know, right?
So it's like nobody goes out.
Hunkered down for winter, and that's about it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, on my end, I forget if I talked about it last time. I know you and I have talked about it, but I forget if I talked about it on the podcast or not. But I got a 3D resin printer, and so we and I had talked about it off, not on the podcast, but I may have mentioned it. I can't remember, but I started doing that, and I was printing some. I don't have anything to show you right now, but I was printing some action figures, and I was doing some stuff like that. But 3D resin printing is very much of a pain. There's a huge learning curve, and once you get everything set up and running, there's all these different variables as to what might be wrong. So once you start ironing everything out and start figuring things out, you can gradually work your way down to, and then you can start getting some nice prints. And then what happened to me is was getting prints, and then I had a problem, and then I had to fix something, and this and that. So it's just an ongoing thing.
Okay.
And so I did manage to get some more prints off and some more figures and stuff like that, which has been pretty cool. But I'm actually waiting on now. I ordered a new workbench for my basement, and I'm going to put the printers down there. And then I got this like this little paint booth thing that has a vent on it, so you can vent it outside, and you can actually do some spray paint and stuff like that.
Okay.
So
okay.
The goal is to eventually print some of this stuff out and then paint it and be able to do it in the house and not have to wait for summer or spring or summer when it's nice outside.
Right. So
we'll have to see how that goes. I mean, the thing I got is pretty powerful, the fan on it, but if we start smelling spray paint in the house, the wife's not going to be happy. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, I mean, you were showing me some of the stuff you've printed so far, and I know it's been a struggle for you.
Yeah.
You have good days and bad, but
that's the thing is it's not just it's not easy. It's not just like, oh, I want to print. Like last weekend I printed out. It just so happened that we'll talk about Boba Fett later, but the big heavy duty Mandalorian guy with the Gatling gun.
Yeah.
Previsla, I forget what his name is.
Yeah, something.
Somebody had a file of him out there, and I downloaded it, and I just happened to print him out. Of course, he shows up in this week, so I'm like, well, I'm glad I bought him and printed him out. But,
yeah.
But so I printed him out, and he came out 100% successfully. It was great. And I tried to do a couple other figures, and the body and an arm came out, and then the head and the other legs didn't print right. And so it's constant where you're constantly you're like, oh, I got parts of it, but not the whole thing. Cause they're each individual files you have to lay down and all that. So,
okay.
So it's just, nothing's quick about it. It's very the print takes time, but then it's it's not like you can guarantee I'm going to print this and have it. You're like, I have to print it up. I got to reprint a couple pieces. And so it takes a little while. So,
okay.
Once I get everything set up in the basement, I'm going to try to get it up and running, a little bit more production line, I think, just, try to really crank some stuff out and see how I can do it. And we'll just go from there, see if it turns in just an expensive hobby, or if I can actually, maybe sell some stuff, but
right.
I'm leaning towards expensive hobby at this point.
Interesting. Yeah, that's cool. What's the coolest thing you've printed so far?
I printed out, let's see. Well, some of the action figures they're always fun and stuff, but I printed out, it's kind of neat. It's this 3D print. It's a dragon and it prints, it's movable. So apparently it's very popular on TikTok. Whatever, I don't know what that, yeah. But it prints all as one piece, and then when you get it, and if it prints right and you cure it right and you do all the stuff right, you can get it, and it all moves around, and it's like, so it's articulated, but you didn't have to do anything to it. It prints pre-articulated.
Oh, okay.
So that was pretty neat. When I got that, I had to do a few tries to get that to work, and I knew that going in for that one. But once I got it to work, I'm like, oh, this is pretty neat. That's pretty cool that you could print something that it's all done, one and done type of thing.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool.
Excellent.
Yeah. So, but yeah, just like a lot of, I think you and I were talking about it. So for the resin print, it's a lot of like toys and like little action figures. And I know a ton of guys do like miniatures for various their role-playing games and stuff like that. So, and it seems like if you want something to be more truly usable, more functional, then you get a filament printer, which is the traditional 3D print, you think, which has the like, they have like the little layer lines. But I ordered something that it's like, it's a, without thinking too into it, it's a drain stand, for lack of a, just to make it quick. But I had to order that for one of my parts to fit into it. And I ordered that from somebody that has one of these other printers. And that thing's like heavy duty. Like you can club somebody over the head with it. And it's like, it's like heavy duty plastic.
Yeah.
Whereas my stuff, it's very fragile. And if you don't do it right, it's, it'll break and stuff like that.
Okay.
So, yeah. So I know some of the stuff that you were talking about for like some of the display stuff like that, I think it'd be much more probably, on the filaments rather than the resin type stuff.
Yeah, the only thing it was funny because the Franklin Institute, we were at the Franklin Institute this past summer. The Franklin Institute, for those who don't know, is it's like the Philadelphia Science Museum, and really cool. They have really cool museum. It's got a lot of cool stuff. But they had a 3D printer, and it must have been I didn't at the time. I didn't know what. Right. There were different kinds, right? Yeah. So it was a filament because they had those big spools of stuff.
Right. Yeah.
And they were just printing. I mean, they were doing like a lot of like what you were showing me, like test print stuff. It looked like, it was just there, but they had some really cool stuff that they had printed, separately, and it looks, like, busts. And things like that. Like it was really, really cool, Yeah,
I just joined this group on Facebook. It's Star Wars 3D printing, and I was thinking more for the action figures and stuff. And here these guys are printing like full suits of armor for like the Mandalorian.
Really?
And like all this stuff. And I mean, it's all with filament printers, but they do other stuff too. But I was amazed. I was amazed at how far filament printers have come. I've never owned one, but I always thought of them as being much more chunky and more that. And you still can see some of the lines in it, but nothing like it used to be. And I was pretty impressed with it too. So
cool.
Yeah. So that's what I've been up to. I like I said, it's definitely a learning curve, and I was into it, and then I was having problems, took a break, went back, figured it out some more. And then this past weekend I was going to print some stuff. And then I'm just like, nah, I don't feel like it. I don't feel like fooling with it.
It's too much work.
Yeah, it kind of is, So I think I'm going to, like I said, I'll wait to get the shop set up in the basement and then see what I can get going there. And I think it might be more satisfying if I can print and then paint something up and then actually have like a finished, like, hey, here's an action figure I made and painted. It's done versus like now I just have a bunch of parts sitting over there that's just waiting.
Right.
Yeah. So
cool.
But anyway, And so other than that, that's about it. I mean, just been catching up on some TV shows and stuff. I was non-geek related. I'm watching we started watching Ozark. The new season of that came out.
Okay. I have to get caught up on that because I'm still somewhere in season 3. I dropped off at some point. I don't even remember where I left off.
Yeah, that's a good show. My wife and I really like that. And I've been watching. It's called Dope Sick. It's on Hulu. Michael.
I've seen it. Yeah, I've seen advertisements for it, but I haven't watched it yet.
Man, that's really good. Really,
is that a series?
Yeah, it's like 8 episodes.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's all about the opioid epidemic. But
right.
Yeah, not very geeky, but it was very well done. Very impressed with it. So
okay.
I'll throw that out there. Just anybody listening, we're looking for some other alternatives.
Yeah. Did you get any cool stuff for Christmas? Any nerd stuff for Christmas?
Nah, not really. No, I treated myself to the 3D printer.
There you go.
I know. I guess we haven't had a Christmas show, have we?
No.
Show since Christmas. No, I don't think I really. Geez, I probably did get something. I can't remember now. So no, I'm gonna stick with my 3D printer.
Yeah,
I'll stick with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
It was a little light this year. We just took it easy.
Yeah, I got the Ori collection, and so that's what I was doing over the holidays.
Yeah. Right.
So I don't know. You ready to get into the beat of the show here?
Yeah, sure. All right. Let's talk about, we're into Star Wars and the current show, the Book of Boba Fett.
Yes.
So
no, we haven't talked about the Book of Boba Fett at all.
Right.
So we're now in season. This is episode 5 released today.
Yes, right this morning. Yep.
I got a chance to see it. I see. Yeah,
I watched it.
You got a chance to see it. So, I guess we'll do full spoilers here. So if you haven't seen episode 5 or any of the others, don't come back when you have. But we're just going to talk about the whole season, up what we think so far, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah. Let's do that. So, I guess I'll start. I'll say. So episodes 1 through 4 are about, and I sort of lay a little groundwork here. Episodes 1 through 4 were Boba Fett's show, and today's episode 5 was really an episode of The Mandalorian.
Yeah,
right. Boba Fett wasn't even in the show.
Yeah, I was sort of shocked because I like when he showed up. I wasn't surprised he showed up.
Right, because
they certainly suggested it.
Yeah,
that's what was going to happen. Right.
Right.
But so I wasn't surprised that he showed up, but I was surprised that the show kept going on and on and on, and I was like, is we're gonna see Boba Fett at any point here?
Is that you're right? Did the Mandalorian just take over Boba Fett's show?
Yeah. So
let's see. Well, to be fair, I guess we can review the whole season, but I'll say. The season, I'll back it up and say, so episodes 1 through 4 with Boba Fett, it's I will say I've been enjoying it. It's Star Wars, it's Boba Fett. I've been enjoying it. I don't think it's not quite the show I thought we were gonna get. It's been I guess I was expecting a little bit more. Basically what they ended up doing with the Mandalorian, I guess I was expecting a little bit more from Boba Fett. And he came across when he was on the Mandalorian as pretty badass. I guess I can say that, right? And I don't feel like we're seeing that side of him in his own show. What I've gathered, and I think by the end you might appreciate it more, but between the flashbacks and going forward is basically, they were showing him at his lowest point, and they're kind of showing him rebuild himself and what he wants to be. I mean, what he doesn't want to be a bounty hunter anymore. He wants more from his life. But I don't know if I necessarily expected that from the show as much as I thought it might be much more just, Boba Fett kicking butt and being a bounty hunter. So once I got past the initial, a little bit of I don't want to say shock because I don't know really what I expected, but once I got that through my head, I have been enjoying it and have been liking it and stuff. But it was just a little bumpy, I would say, just to as they almost reset the table, you could say, they
I tend to agree. It's not. I know that there's been a lot of online. Twitter
right.
and
Right.
it's so much to deal with, but it is. I'll say that I agree. The show is not what I expected it to be, but it's not. I don't think it's bad.
No.
Right. I mean, I was a little. I can say that I said I think you and I spoke a while back, and I was just sort of saying. I'm surprised at how often he seems to get his butt kicked.
Yes, right.
So far.
Right.
But that's fine. Like it's like you said, it's this is a show. I screwed up the thing here.
There you go.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just not. It's not what we expected, but it's like. I think this is about an older Boba Fett, right? Like that's what the show is about. Like he's not the guy from Empire Strikes Back who's out. Like he's sort of like realizing that's not the way. And I think we learned a lot about him. Like the Tusken stuff is where you sort of learn in the last episode. You sort of learn like that was the first time he sort of had a tribe, for lack of a better word, right? And it was, because it's always been him. It was him and his father, and then it was always just him on his own, and so now he's sort of found a tribe, and a place to belong, and I think he wants that in his life. I think that's what a lot of those like dream sequences are about.
It's all right. Yeah, him coming to terms with being part of something bigger, I guess. And I mean, just from like story structure wise, it's all about you tear the character down to the basics, and then you rebuild them, and that's from a writing standpoint, that's the story arc, And so I think a lot of it is that just to show, he came out of the Sarlacc pit, and he was, basically broken, and he lost his armor, which was basically at that point his entire identity. Right. When you think about it that way. So basically he had to learn how to be Boba Fett without all the armor. I mean, eventually obviously he gets his armor back, but, so I think that's a lot of it too. He became, it became less about became more about I get a little heady here, but it became more about the man who was Boba Fett versus about the suit of armor that was Boba Fett type of thing.
Right. Yeah. And I agree. It's just I'm messing this whole thing up there.
That's fine.
I just think he's it's not the show I expected it to be. I think that's fair to say. Right. But I'm enjoying what I've seen so far. I mean, it was a little slow, I guess. So I didn't love that, but
I found it a little inconsistent too. Like the first episode was like they're setting the stage, and so that was okay. That was like, all right, well, let's see where this goes. The second episode I really enjoyed with the whole train heist and the pikes and all that stuff. That was a lot of action, and that was fun. I liked that. And then the third episode was the one with the water and the speeder bike Vespas or whatever they were.
Yeah.
I know. And I mean, this is the whole thing. I know there's this whole thing online. People are so upset by it. And I didn't, again, it's one of those things where I'm like, man, I don't know if I like these speeder bikes, but like, I see what they were going for. I mean, they were trying to do like a whole tribute to Lucas and his love of like race cars and all that stuff. And then, so, I mean, I kind of got what they were going for. I don't know if it necessarily worked for me, but I didn't hate it. I just was like, oh, okay. Yeah. But something I thought about later was that, and I'm not sure where they're going with it, or even if they meant to do it, but like, remember how in episode or season 1 of The Mandalorian, when we saw the original cantina, how it was like all like sterilized and like droids were working there.
Yeah.
And it was very like lame at that point. And I kind of like with these new speeder bikes, everyone's like, oh, they don't belong on Tatooine. Like they don't mix in. And I'm like, well, maybe they're trying to show you that things are changing, much like the cantina. They're trying to show you like Tatooine isn't as backwater as it used to be. It's actually becoming rather important. And I was wondering if that's where they were going with that, seeing as how like, it's Boba Fett's hub of operations. What I mean? Like, I wonder if that's the direction they were going in. But anyway.
Yeah, I mean, somebody. I was listening to a podcast, and I tend to agree with this. Like, Star Wars is going to change. I mean, it just is. Like, you can't like. We have to kind of get comfortable with the idea that, like I saw those speeder bikes. I thought they were kind of weird. I think the mods are a little strange,
right?
And I keep seeing people online say, well, that's not Star Wars, but it's like, but in order for Star Wars to continue, it's going to have to change, right?
And
I mean, that's just the way it's going to be.
change.
So, do I love the mods? Do I love those speeder bike things? No, that chase was not great. I mean, it was like a slow speed chase. It just wasn't great.
That was a little odd, yeah.
And but it's a TV show budget. Like, I think it's fair to say that Boba Fett probably doesn't get the. I mean, they put a lot of money into this, but I think they didn't put as much money into it as, say, The Mandalorian, right? I think they put more money into that.
I don't know, and I don't know if it was a budget issue or if it was something that they said, hey, technology wise, let's try to shoot this, like, let's try to do a speeder bike chase with in the volume, or like, you know what I mean? I'm not sure how quite, whatever it was, I know it didn't work 100%.
Right.
Like, I wasn't sure if it was like a backstage lot, if they were doing a lot of stuff on, I that's what I was thinking. I'm like, I wonder if this is like an experiment. I wonder if they were trying something with that. And it ultimately didn't really work that well, because it did feel, for being on speeder bikes and a land speeder, it felt very, very slow.
Yeah. Right. And I think, so I think the criticism's fair. Like, some of the, I mean, some of it was way overblown. Like, I think it's the criticism of it is fair, but I think some of it is just a little out of control. But like, I so far I like the show.
Yeah,
I do believe it's going to get better. I mean, I think it's going to get better before it's over, right? Like, yes. I think we've gotten through a lot of the backstory. Like, I think telling that story in flashback, which maybe it wasn't the greatest decision, but they're telling the story in flashback. I think that certainly slows down the show when you're going back and forth like that. So I think that's part of the problem. But I think we're through all that now. Like, yes. I think the flashbacks are done. Now we're just moving forward. And I do think that, like, from this point on, it's gonna be a different kind of show.
Right.
And we'll see where it goes from here. And now that said, this week's episode with the Mandalorian totally threw me. I mean, I loved it, but I was sort of like, what happened here? But like, I loved the episode. I loved everything about this episode.
And I thought that was, I did see somebody make a joke online, and they're like, how sad is it that the best episode of Boba Fett doesn't have Boba Fett in it? and I mean, and it's like, I feel bad even for repeating that, but at the same time, I'm like, well, they're right, because I mean, I absolutely love that episode today. It was great, and I mean, it made me, it kind of made me double down on one of the thing I've been saying, where it's like, I don't know, like, for Star Wars, do we necessarily want to revisit old characters and old things? It's nice to see locations, and it's nice to be like, oh, the Rancor, I remember that, and it's nice. That sort of thing is nice. And we saw it with Luke in The Last Jedi, and we saw it now with Boba Fett, and I'm sure we're going to see it. And even when we did Han Solo's movie, everyone's like, well, that's not how it was, or that's not how I thought it should be, or that's not how I thought he should act. And I feel like they're getting themselves in trouble. Yeah, I mean, I
and I think that, like, what we've seen is sort of like, if you're looking for the action show, I think The Mandalorian is your show, right? Like, not that there's not going to be action in Boba Fett, but I think this show is going to be a different kind of show. It's not going to be all action all the time. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yes. Yeah.
And and I think that, like, this episode this week sort of showed that, like, the guy that's out there kicking butt is the Mandalorian. Right. It's not Boba Fett's sitting back, and he's he's sort of being the chess master now, right? He's playing 3-dimensional chess or whatever.
Right.
So but that said, we know we're going to see him riding that Rancor. We know that, right?
Right. I mean, that was right. Yeah, I remember that was rumored before the show even came out. There was a rumor about him on the Rancor, and then they deliver the Rancor to him. So then you're like, all right. And I think that he actually said in the episode, "I want to ride it." Didn't he?
Yeah. So that is going to happen.
I assume that's going to be either the finale is going to be him showing up on that thing, or the close of the episode will just be him finally showing up, like, look at me,
Yeah. Yeah. So, but yeah, I like the show. It's fine. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not exact. I think that my big disappointment so far has been the escape from the Rancor or from the Sarlacc was cool,
Right.
but I just expected a little more.
Yeah.
And it was fine. I mean, but I was just expecting a little
Yeah.
more. That's all.
And I think that goes to the fact where it's like, all these years have gone by and officially there's been stories, unofficially there's been stories. There's been all this head canon for everybody.
Right.
And, no matter what they did, you imagine something better
Yeah.
in your head, and so it's kind of like that sort of thing. I know I posted something online. I said I would have rather just had like a wide shot and have a few explosions go off in the Sarlacc pit and have him jetpack out or something.
Yeah.
And then somebody's like, well, the jetpack was busted because of when Han swung in.
Yeah, right.
And I'm like,
right.
all right, you're right. I forgot that I forgot that was messed up. So okay then, but that's how I had it in my head. So what they did was not as good.
Yeah, and it was fine.
Right.
What I did think was cool was when they go back after he gets Slave One back, and they go back.
Oh right, yeah.
And they go back to, because he doesn't know, and that was another thing online. People were like all flipping out because it's like, well, why is he going back to the Sarlacc to look for his armor? Because, like a lot of people were criticizing that because we see his armor get taken by the Jawas after it gets out. And it's like, well, that's easy enough to explain. He's totally out of it.
Right. He didn't remember what happened.
He didn't remember it. He just, he was completely unconscious. He didn't remember them coming and showing up and taking his stuff.
And I think that, and I kind of read a little bit more into it too. Like, I think they wanted to show like how desperate he was to get his armor back at that point, where he's kind of like, like again, the whole identity thing where he's like, well, without my tribe, because by then the Tuscans were dead, right?
Yes.
So by then he's like, well, without my tribe, who am I? I got to go get my armor back.
Yeah.
And he's like, so like distraught. And it's his father's armor and all that. He was so distraught. He actually went back into the Sarlacc pit looking for it,
Yeah.
And so I took that, I took it to be more that way and stuff. But I did see some of those criticisms too. And I'm just kind of like, whatever.
Yeah. That's that one. I was just like, this is not a big deal. Like he doesn't remember
right
what happened after he got out of the Sarlacc. But like the scene of them in Slave One at the Sarlacc was really cool.
That was fun. Yeah,
like that was a cool scene. And
they came up and it grabbed it, and I was like, wow, this is crazy. That was like, stuff you always, it was just, that was fun. And I did like the sequence once they got Slave One back, and we can talk about the whole name thing in a minute, but when he came back around and like behind the speeder bike gang and like was like pew 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 and like blew them all away, that was great. And there's a piece of production artwork that they show that it like they mirrored it in the show. It just, the artwork was awesome, and then when they had that shot, it just was the same. It looked great. They did a great job with it.
Yeah. So I like that. That was the last. That was episode 4, right? That was That was episode 4. So he gets the ship back in episode 4, and I think in episode 4 the show started getting better, right?
Yes.
I do believe that, and
right.
And I think like I think they probably should have done what WandaVision did, because you remember when WandaVision came out, they released 2 episodes at the same time.
Right.
Because they knew those first 2 episodes were kind of slow.
Right.
And they wanted to, they knew the first episode was a little strange, and the second episode you start getting a little bit more, and that those 2 episodes together are a little slow, so they released them at the same time. I think they would have benefited by doing that with this show.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So that, you're not waiting 4 weeks into it for it to really start picking up.
Yeah, well, if they'd done that, the second episode was the train episode, so like that would have been your big action piece for, and that would have gotten people, I think, really excited, for that part of it and stuff. But yeah, I know what you mean, and I know we talked about this offline at one point, but like we're saying with the flashbacks, like I almost wonder, like, again, it may not have been, if they had told a story linear without the flashbacks and just showed him come out of the pit, showed him go through the Tuscan thing, and then go on that, but that maybe they broke it up because it was too slow. Maybe that's why they did the flashbacks, because they were, because I think linear would have been maybe better for an understanding of like, oh, here he is now, here's what he's doing. Oh, this, you'd actually see him change his mind without being confused by the present day, so to speak.
Right.
But yeah, those flashbacks were there. I liked them all. I actually liked the Tuscan story, but they were not action packed. They were a little slower side. So I guess an entire episode of that may have been too much. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So but I like the show. I like where it's going. But let's talk. I guess we should talk about this week's episode, because it's a complete departure from everything else. Right. And like, we really get some information about because at the end of season 2 of The Mandalorian, it just sort of, Grogu leaves with Luke, and
you're left questioning,
and you're left there. They're standing there on the bridge of the ship. He doesn't have a ship anymore. He doesn't, like, he's got this saber. Is he hanging out with like Bo-Katan now?
Right, that's what I was very surprised by all that. I wasn't sure. Yeah.
Right. So a lot of those questions get answered in this episode. Right.
Right.
And like, I thought that was interesting. He's not with Bo-Katan anymore. He's off on his own.
Right. He's back to bounty hunting. It looks like,
Right. And, so I thought that was really interesting.
Right. They didn't say what happened to Bo-Katan though, right? They didn't say where she was right now.
They did not.
Okay. That's what I was curious about. Cause I'm like, I wasn't sure what to expect, but I figured she was going to do whatever she could to get that dark saber. So for him to go off and still have it, I was surprised. I'm like, oh, I wonder how that happened. I wonder what that story is.
Well, that's kind of where I'm at. Like, because I sort of thought, at the end of season 2, they had captured that Imperial ship,
right?
Which wasn't like a Star Destroyer. It was smaller than a Star Destroyer, but
yes,
it was a pretty sizable ship. And I was like, oh, they're all going to team up and they're going back to Mandalore.
Right.
That's what I figured was going to happen, but that is apparently not what happened. He's off on his own now again. We don't know what, like you said, we don't know how that ended.
Right. Oh, that's true too.
We don't know if Bo-Katan, if that ended well, or or if it was. Certainly there seems like, I'm sure there was some tension there.
That's interesting. I didn't think about that. Right. I wonder if they, did they fight already and that maybe she lost, or did she just say like, leave, I'm not fighting you for it, or that'll be interesting to see how that did play out that way.
Right. I think that's a lot of what season 3 is going to be is that, because we got a little bit of it in this episode, not a lot, but we got, first of all, where were they? Were they on Coruscant?
No, it was like some kind of weird like ring planet. Like,
okay,
it looked like it was basically a ring, and the city was on the inside of the ring.
Okay, yeah, I couldn't figure out, and I was watching it while I was on my work when I was running the elliptical this morning, and so I'm watching it on my iPad, not on my big TV.
I did it on the treadmill. I did the same thing.
So I couldn't figure out if what I was seeing was like image, like I couldn't figure out if it was a ring or if what I was seeing was like they were interior Coruscant we were seeing out. That's but I don't. But I thought at first I was like, is that a giant ring? And I was like, I that kind of threw me a little bit. I was trying to figure out like where are they? You know?
Yeah. But yeah, so I don't even know if they probably said the name of it, but I didn't pick that up. But I guess he must have tracked them down there as like the 2 remaining Mandalorians that were left over. I mean, at least the armorer, he knew she was there,
right?
And then the other guy's name I can't remember. I know it was a Vizsla.
It's
one of from the Clone Wars. It's one of his offspring, and then then he challenges him.
Right.
For the dark saber and loses, which was I thought that was pretty cool because that guy was a jerk when we saw him last time too. So.
But he's like, it's like he is, but he's like they're all very like honorable about the whole thing.
Right.
But you know.
Mhm.
But there, there was some tension between those guys to begin with. But
And
he
then
said there's only 3 of them. So he said there were
yeah,
only
yeah.
3 of the cohort left, which is I
Right.
guess the armor, the Vizsla guy, and then was he counting the Mandalorian, or is there
That's
another one floating around?
I wasn't sure. I thought
Okay.
I thought both. I'm like, well, maybe he was counting the man since we didn't see the other one. I'm assuming he was counting the Mandalorian, but I don't know. You know, they could always bring that person back. You know, if they wanted to, phrasing wise, if they wanted to have another character, I guess they could always do that too.
Right.
You know.
So I thought that was interesting that there's only the 2 of them, and then she sort of rejects him because he took his helmet off, right?
Have you ever removed your helmet? He's kind of like, you know, like
I was
maybe
hoping you didn't bring that up.
that led to an interesting thing where she's like, oh, to be reborn, you have to go to this lake or something that's underground on Mandalore.
Yeah.
And then they do, I think it was around the same time they did the flashback and showed the Empire bombing the crap out of Mandalore. And that's what the Night of Tears. What is
Night
it
of the something like that. Night of Long Tears or something.
Yeah.
Like
and so then that was our first glimpse of live action Mandalore, was the Empire bombing it. So I'm assuming that he's got to go back to Mandalore, not only to do his little quest of rebirth in the lake, but you know, I'm assuming he'll encounter Bo-Katan there as well. I mean, I would think so anyway.
But is he going to see? I wonder if he's even going to. I mean, I think we're going to see him go back to the waters or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
But like, I don't even know. Like, does he? Because now he's, you know, now he's been exposed to other Mandalorians,
right?
And sees that you know, that's not exactly the way, right? Like, there's other people doing other things.
I thought that's how it was going at the end of the season, but then they kind of doubled down on it with the armor and saying, you know, like, and saying that although Bo-Katan had the dark saber, she didn't follow the way, and her rule ended in tragedy.
Right.
And then that's when the Empire attacked and all that. So then I wonder if he was like, right, which way is he going to go? Basically, is he going to double down and say like, "Oh, this is the way, I got to go back to there," or is he going to, you know, basically learn and say, you know what, maybe that isn't the way, you know, maybe you know, so that might be part of his whole character arc for the third season, basically, you know, his struggle.
Right. You know, and I thought it was cool that he had her make.
Yeah, right.
Something for Baby Yoda.
Right.
So, you know, he at least, you know, and I took that to mean he expects to see him soon, right?
Well,
like, it's, you know what I'm saying? Like, at the
end of the episode when Fennec Shan, right? Am I saying her name right? Yeah. She's like, "Oh, come help Boba Fett out," and the Mandalorian's like, "Yeah, I'll do it for free, but I want to go see my kid first," basically.
Right.
So I'm like, all right, are we gonna see Grogu next episode, or is it gonna be like, you know, the Mandalorian will turn up and be like, "Oh yeah, I just checked in with him, he's fine," like, you know, kind of off camera,
right?
Maybe that's something we get to see in you know, in season 3 or something, you know, sort of like a, you know,
or maybe we're actually going to get to see the Jedi Academy.
I mean, that would be
right.
That would be awesome, and I don't expect it, but I didn't expect Luke Skywalker either. I mean, you know, everything. Well, I take it back. Everything pointed to Luke, and I'm like, they're not going to do Luke, you know. And so same way here, they're like, well, if he's going to visit Grogu, maybe they will then, you know.
Right.
That'd be pretty cool.
That would be neat. I mean, like after the Luke reveal, I don't, you know, put anything past them. Like you know, like Filoni always said, or I don't know if he always said that, but I think their goal with the Clone Wars cartoon, or, you know, animated series,
right,
was to make the prequels better. Right. Like that was what I think that was what George wanted. It was what they always, I think that was always sort of like their North Star. Like you know, they're going to tell these stories, and the goal is to make the movies better. Right. And so maybe that's what they're going to do here.
Maybe, right?
Maybe the goal is, all right, let's make the sequels better. Let's fill in the gaps
Right.
that the sequels left open.
And I mean, they kind of already have with like the cloning and the Snoke and all that stuff.
Right.
And I mean, maybe, if that maybe they can show Luke at the temple. And I mean, he's still relatively young now, like we don't have a good timeline for that. So like, I mean, there's probably, there's a good chunk of story here in this time period where like Luke can still be the Luke we saw in The Mandalorian, like the Jedi Knight that everybody loves, and like the hero, basically before he loses his way with Kylo.
Right.
So there's like a lot of good story, like, in there. And then if it's around that long or you get that far ahead, you could also see him, starting to have doubts about the Jedi and about everything like that too.
Right. And maybe they go that deep, maybe they go that deep. I don't know. That's all down the road. But it would be, and I don't know that we'd get it all in The Mandalorian or what, but I think it would be really cool if that's the way they're going, right? I mean, obviously, Baby Yoda's with Luke, so Luke is
he's a player now in the show,
right? As far as we know, he's building the Jedi Academy,
right?
We don't. I mean, they never revealed where all that took place, right?
No, I don't.
Maybe in a comic or book or something.
They probably said, they probably give it a name, but it doesn't. Right? Yeah, it doesn't matter where it was.
Yeah.
I wonder if we'll see some of that in the Ahsoka series. Maybe that
also true,
because that would be more at least to start anyway, a little logical. But I feel like that's going to be all about her looking for Ezra and Thrawn and all that stuff. But
yeah.
I don't know. There's a ton of, I mean, they have their work cut out for them in a good way because there's tons of storytelling opportunities with things that they've set up. There's the sequels, which there's all this stuff they can connect to. Yeah. And then there's all that expanded universe stuff that, they made not canon, but that it's still out there. So
that they can still mine for stories.
Like I got all excited when at the end of the Bad Batch, when they took the Camino scientists to Mount Tannis, and that was where that was like an Emperor's storehouse where he was doing cloning experiments and from the expanded universe. And I just remember losing my mind. I'm like, oh, I know, I never thought, you just didn't, of all the things they could have pulled in, I didn't expect that. And all of a sudden I'm like, oh, what's here? Oh my God, so. Yeah. I'll be curious to see where they go with it. I hate to say it, not hate, but I've really, really enjoyed The Mandalorian, and this episode today was just fantastic. And I just found that I've enjoyed it. I enjoy it more than I do and the Boba Fett show.
I do, like it. It made me realize how much, because it's been a while since season 2, right? Like it's been over a year now, right?
Right.
And and it made me realize how much I really like that show. I really, and not that Boba Fett's not good, but it's like that show. I really like that show.
Yeah, right. So I'll be curious to bring it back, I guess, around the Boba Fett though. I'll be curious to see where it does go, because he wants to be, so there's Boba Fett and he decides he wants to be a crime lord, and they're obviously going to war with the Pikes, and he wants to do all that. But I'm like, I'm trying to figure out from a story structure, like, if Boba Fett's a crime lord, that's not that exciting, I guess, is the best way to put it. Like, like Jabba the Hutt was this big blob that sat there and he was all powerful. And so he lent himself to being a crime lord because he really didn't do anything. But I'm like, so you have somebody like Boba Fett. I'm like, well, if he's the boss, he really shouldn't be out getting himself dirty. Like, if he's the boss, he should, it's. I'm curious what the end game is, and maybe he does become boss, or maybe they defeat the Pikes, and then there's a bigger,
Well, I do think, I mean, there's key, they keep talking about it. And I think there's probably some truth to the rumors, is that the Crimson Dawn is supposed to
that's
reappear.
True. Yes,
right?
yes.
And So I think what you may get, I mean, we know that they keep trying to figure out, like, that was one of the big things from Solo, is they wanted to bring that sort of like underworld story
right
into the fold.
yes
It didn't, obviously Solo's didn't take off. I think they're not going to follow up with that, but I do think they liked this Crimson Dawn element of it.
yes yeah
And I think they have every intention of bringing that forward.
And I can say I went and I read some of the comics. They did a whole crossover thing with, it takes after Empire, Boba Fett's trying to deliver Han Solo to Jabba the Hutt, and then Crimson Dawn reappears and steals him. And then there's a whole, it's a little bit of a too much back and forth, but there's a whole back and forth, like a chase for Han Solo during this whole thing. But the end result is that Crimson Dawn is back, and Kira's in charge of them from Solo. She's back and she's in charge. And
okay,
so it was obviously everything ended up how we knew. Boba Fett finally delivered it to Jabba, but there's a bunch of political stuff that had happened in the meantime.
Right.
But the end result of at least the first miniseries or whatever was that Crimson Dawn is back and they're a major player again. So it's interesting right now that you say that maybe they are setting them up to come back here to sort of to fill the vacuum again, maybe.
Well, right. And I mean, that's where, like, and again, none of that's confirmed, but I keep hearing people talk about it online, and knowing that Lucasfilm sort of really like that Crimson Dawn storyline, I think they're going to take those stories and they're just going to apply it here. Right? Like they're just going to, you know what I'm saying? And so that's what I expect this to be at the end, is like Boba Fett's crime syndicate against Crimson Dawn, and that's where the conflict's going to be. Like you're saying, I don't know how much mileage you can get out of that, but like that's where I think they're headed.
That's interesting, right? Yeah, I know. I'm just, I mean, but then again, who would have thought, or with the Mandalorian stuff, how much mileage could you've gotten? Like the same thing. It's like, well, how much mileage can you get out of a bounty hunter show, or how much mileage?
Right.
Even with Baby Yoda, you're like, I mean, they knew enough to end it. Not that he's not in the show anymore, but they brought, the end of season 2, I would never expected Luke to show up and take Baby Yoda, what I mean?
Right.
So maybe it will surprise us. Maybe they have something up their sleeve that way too.
Right. So we'll just have to wait and see. But I'm in for the rest of it. I'm excited to see where it goes. I mean, I know, I mean, there's all kinds of people going off the deep end about the Book of Boba Fett. I don't get it. Like, I mean, it's not what I expected, but I don't think it's a terrible show.
Right.
It's entertaining. I'm enjoying it.
The only thing, like I said, is that I think people have these preconceived notions of who Boba Fett was and is and should be, and he was always this stereotype of a character. He's the best at what he does, and this and that, and it's like, that's all well and good, but that's only interesting for so long. You can only be the best of the best, if you just
if you just have a show about him kicking butt week after week after week, well, where does that go? Right. It might be fun to see for a few episodes, but like
eventually, eventually it's going to be like, okay, it's just, so
like the character's got to have an arc. If he's just the greatest at what he does at the beginning, and he's the greatest at what he does at the end, there's no arc.
Then there's there's no story. Then you just watch, and maybe I'm not afraid. Maybe that's what people wanted, just an adventure serial where it's like, all right, let's just watch him kick butt each week or something. Maybe that's what they were expecting. I don't know.
Right.
So, hopefully they have something nice planned for the remaining 3 episodes, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So and 5. Oh no, there's only 2 episodes, right? Because this was 5.
That's what kind of threw me, is because I think there's 7 episodes.
Yes, I definitely know that.
And I think when I found that out, I was kind of surprised. I was like, I thought there was only going to be 6, but now it makes sense.
Right.
Because the 7th episode is really a Mandalorian episode.
Right. Yeah. So there's only 2 episodes left then. because this was number 5 today, and then right
5,
6 and,
right?
yeah,
6 and 7, right?
Oh, so 2 more. All right, so 2 more episodes. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see where they do go with this. Then, okay.
Right, and then I think the Bad Batch season 2.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah.
Begins. I'm gonna look it up here, but I think the Bad Batch season 2. I think I saw that it's like March.
Oh, okay. All right. So then this will
So-
take us into February, and then a couple weeks in. Okay, yeah, that'll be pretty good.
It may not have a date yet. It just says spring right here. So
Oh,
I'm not
okay.
sure if I'm.
But
I thought we had a date.
I feel like if it wasn't a date, there was like it was like a leak or like something like that. But yeah, I think when you said March, I think that does sound about right.
Yeah. So we'll see, but that's the next. I don't know if that's the next Star Wars thing.
I think it is because I know other than because they definitely have not announced Kenobi's date yet, because that I believe it's going to be after Boba Fett is Bad Batch, Kenobi, and then Andor is
Okay.
And I think that's how it's going to be throughout the year. But I don't think if they did announce Bad Batch, that's the only one. I definitely know the other two. They've just been hinted at as to when they're coming. So
Yeah, and I you know what? Like I was really like the Bad Batch, not to go get it, but like the Bad Batch, I give credit to. I was not looking for. I mean, not that I wasn't looking forward to the show, but I wasn't excited about it at all.
Right.
And man, that show was good.
Yeah,
They did a really nice job with the Bad Batch.
Yes, I agree with that too. I really liked it. Again, it wasn't that excited going into it, but I'm like, I'll watch it. I'll check it out. And I really liked it. It was fun. It was a good show. And I'd be curious to see where everything goes with all that too. It'd be fun.
Yeah. So, all right.
All right, good.
We ready to move on?
Yeah, that wraps us up on the Book of Boba Fett and Star Wars for this week. Yep.
All right, so why don't we just move on to little bit of Star Trek news. We got the season 2 trailer for Star Trek Picard, which I thought was which I was really excited about because I really enjoyed season 1. So what'd you think? Anything? What are your thoughts on season 2 trailer of Picard?
I was excited for it. I mean, it looks good. I feel like the trailer throws a ton of ideas at you.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to figure it out. And I don't quite know if I have it yet, but it basically looks like Q's involved and they get sent back in time, but they get sent back to an alternate timeline. If I'm piecing it together right.
That's what I'm picking up. Yes.
Okay. All right. So, and then, so I guess it's the standard Star Trek time travel thing, which is always fun. I always enjoy those stories. And then it's like, almost like, I don't say the mirror universe, because it's not that, but it's an alternate timeline. Like, they show like, right. We're watching the trailer now on the YouTube, but they show a bunch of different, like the and I forget everybody's name, but the captain is like, all of a sudden he's in Starfleet, and like 7 of 9 doesn't have her aboard crap anymore.
Right.
So
I
it's definitely
think
different.
Yeah. Good.
Oh, I was just going to jump in. The trailer's playing, and they're showing Guinan makes an appearance, and so I thought that was pretty cool.
That was sort of like the big, like I didn't know that was now. And candidly, I'm not as up on Star Trek news as I am on Star Wars or Marvel or anything.
Right.
Like that.
Yeah.
So maybe that Guinan thing was known, but when I saw her in the trailer, that was the first time I was aware she was going to be in the show, which that's really cool because they always had a really great relationship on the original series.
Yes.
She showed up in the first movie. I don't think she was in the subsequent ones, but she was in the first movie.
Right, I do remember.
And that was one of the better parts of that movie is their
chemistry. The
chemistry between Picard and Guinan. So, so I'm looking forward to it. I mean, I listened to some breakdowns of the trailer because, like I said, I'm not as up on Star Trek stuff as I am on other things, and they said in some of these breakdowns apparently there's very heavy rumors that Deep Space Nine is going to factor in to this, and like there's a scene in this trailer where it's like there's like a tablet or something from those things from Deep Space Nine. There were tablets or the containers where the Bajoran like spirits were or something. I don't know.
Oh.
But apparently that makes an appearance in this trailer on a table at one point. It's like broken or something. But did you ever see the end of Deep Space Nine?
If I did, I don't remember. I don't think I did.
Okay.
I think by that point, I mean, I remember Next Generation ending, and I feel like Deep Space Nine and Voyager just kind of fizzled out. Like I don't remember them.
I only like within the last few years, I finally watched the entirety of Deep Space Nine, and that it was a slog to get through. Like it's hard to go back to those old. When it's like 24 episodes in a season, it's just like, oh my God, like,
yes,
are we ever going to get through this thing? And but anyway, I finally went back and watched everything, and at the end, like, Cisco sort of becomes like one of those Bajor, like you don't really know what happens to him.
Right. He becomes like a god, for lack of a better word.
Right.
He?
Like he becomes like one of these Bajoran like entities or gods or whatever that they interacted with all throughout the show. And he just sort of disappears. And nobody really knows what happens to him, right? And that's kind of how the show ends. And and it's kind of a, I mean, it was, I and spoil, like, I didn't know any of that. Like, I didn't know how it ended at all.
Okay,
so that all kind of surprised me. But a lot of, I guess there's a lot of speculation that, he may make an appearance in this show. It, maybe as a spirit, maybe as, because remember, he and Picard have a little bit of history.
They do?
Yeah, like that's Deep Space Nine begins. This was always like, I loved how Deep Space Nine began, right? Because the Deep Space Nine begins with Ben Sisko, who becomes the captain or commander of Deep Space Nine.
Right.
He and his family are on a ship. A starship that is involved in the attack, in the Borg attack at Wolf 359, where they just wipe out Starfleet.
Right.
And Picard is leading the Borg as Locutus at that point.
Right.
And so, Cisco's got this, like, I mean, basically Picard killed, helped to kill his wife, right?
Okay,
as Locutus. So those two are don't have the best relationship.
Okay, all right.
And there's a scene where I don't know how many times Picard appears on Deep Space Nine, but it's always a little tense between
Okay.
I don't know if it's once or twice or whatever, but like at least in that first episode, there's a lot of tension between those two.
Right. Yeah.
And so there's a little bit of history between those two. So I think it would make sense if he shows up in some fashion in this show. But I don't know. That's all speculation at this point. But I just think it's that would be a neat way to tie all that stuff together.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool. Right. I mean, if they're, depending how they're looking at this, but if they're looking at obviously Picard as like, that if they consider Discovery new, and then you have Picard is a Next Generation, and then Strange New Worlds would be the classic,
right?
So sorry, hold on. I got somebody roaming around behind me. I don't know what's happening.
All good.
All right.
So I don't know. I mean, I'm excited about this show. I really liked season one. I guess some people didn't like it, but I really liked season one a lot. I mean, there were parts that was slowed down and stuff, but I for my part, I thought it was a really good story. I thought the Picard in the show was true to the Picard from the Next Generation. I thought that those characters you could track. And unlike Luke, who seemed like completely different from what we knew in in the movies, I thought you could easily track Picard, right?
Well,
From
they
the show to the new show, right?
Right. They didn't make it a mystery as to what happened to him. They came out and told you what happened to him.
Right.
You know, like the whole thing. I'm drawing a blank. I remember at the time. I remember being like, "Good. This is why Picard is." You know, it wasn't a mystery. It was like, here's what happened to him.
Yeah.
He retired from Starfleet. You know, like it was just here. It is. It wasn't a mystery, and that's
it was. It was. He tried to. I guess he wanted to evacuate. It came down to evacuation of Romulus because of the events we saw in. I love how this is. I like how Star Trek connects all these dots. Like I think that. But it goes back to
That's right.
To the rebooted Star Trek, right? But like at any rate, so they needed to evacuate Romulus. Picard had Starfleet didn't want to do it. Picard believed they should do it, and then he resigned in protest. Is what it came down to.
Right.
And and I thought all that tracked.
Yeah.
With who he is. Or who he was in the show.
Right.
So so I thought so. I really enjoyed the show. I'm looking forward to it, and it's coming out in a few weeks. Like I think this is March.
Yes. Matter of fact, I think it said March. I want to say March 3rd. I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
So so soon.
Yeah, so that's exciting. I'm looking forward to seeing it. In Q, and I guess there's rumors that we're going to see a lot of the characters from the next gen.
Oh, okay, that would be fun.
All rumored, but there's a lot of speculation that we're going to see a lot more of the characters from the next generation.
Well, I would hope so. I mean, there's the news story, which is fun, but there's also the nostalgia, which is fun too. So if you can interweave those characters in a creative way, rather, I really liked how they did Riker and Deanna, like they made sense for the story. It's not like they just trotted them out to show them off. I mean, that they were there, they were part of the story, and I would hope they can do that with the other guys too.
Yeah. So
I will. I did just read today before the show that there is season 3 of Picard is announced.
Oh, good.
And they're going to do that. But apparently Patrick Stewart said that will be the last season. They're only going to do 3 of them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So whether it's, it didn't give a reason. So whether he's done, I mean, he's getting pretty old. So, maybe he's just, maybe he doesn't want to do it anymore. Maybe they're like, all right, let's take this in a new direction. I don't know I don't know the reasoning, but they said that season 3, as of now anyway, will be the final season. So.
That's it.
Yeah.
Well, what's nice is that if it goes 3 seasons, well, you saying it's all right, it's going to go 3 seasons.
Right.
What's nice is that they've introduced a whole family of new characters, right? So, the show could continue on. Like I hear what you're saying. I can't remember the name of the captain.
Right.
It's gonna kill me, but Raffi is the first officer.
Oh, right,
and the scientist, and then the guy, the sword guy, and
right.
Like they've introduced. You know what I'm saying? Like they could sort of go off and have their own.
They could easily change the name of the show to something different, and then off we go, and there's your new adventure type of thing, right?
Right, and they're all established, and I'd be perfectly cool with that,
Yeah, right.
And even Brent. I mean, it looks like Brent Spiner is going to play.
Yeah,
a significant role in this show. So
now he's playing. Who was Data's creator? What was his name?
Okay. So Data's creator was Sung, Dr. Sung.
Okay, Nunnian Sung or something like that.
Yeah,
right?
something. Yeah.
So I guess this is an ancestor of his that's gonna be in the show.
Right. That's what a lot of what I've read or what I saw on on speculation, trailer breakdowns and stuff, is that the Brent Spiner we see in this trailer is actually a Sung from the past.
Okay, right.
So he's not Data's creator.
Right.
He's
great.
Right. He's an ancestor of him. And so, there's some speculation that Q is going to do something to change that.
Oh, I see.
And that's what starts, so it's I mean, there's all kinds of speculation. I mean, we're not going to know until the show starts, but that's at least what people are thinking right now is that the Brent Spiner in this show is a Sung ancestor.
Okay, all right. So that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
So, well, hopefully, yeah. So if he's in it, and I'm pretty sure Riker and I don't know about Deanna, but I'm pretty sure Riker is confirmed. I'm not 100%.
Okay.
But, it'd be cool if some of the other people can show up too.
I would. I'm all on board with that.
I know, right?
Worf again, like the whole 9 yards. Bring them all.
Unless, I mean, really, unless they're saving Worf, I mean, they could really, let Picard run its course, and then all of a sudden jump over and we find out what Worf's up to.
Right,
They
right.
could do something like that because, he was fascinating as a character, and sort of like, where did he end up? Like, I can't remember the last time we saw him. Did he marry? Like, he was on Deep Space Nine.
He was on Deep Space Nine. He ended up marrying.
Yeah, Jax.
Dax.
Right? Dax.
He ended up marrying Jadzia Dax.
Right.
But then, spoiler alert for this show that ended, 20 years ago. Jadzia dies.
Okay.
And the Trill goes to somebody else. Like the Trill survives. Jadzia dies.
The host body died, right?
The Trill goes to somebody else. And then there's a season or two of him being like, what is going on? Because they were married, but they're not married anymore. It's like this whole thing.
Yeah.
So but I forget what happens. I honestly, I don't remember what happens to him at the end. I don't know what becomes. I don't know if he resigns and then goes to become an ambassador to Klingon. I don't remember what happens.
Yeah.
So
right. Yeah, I was getting mixed up. I remembered in one of the other Treks he played, the actor's name escapes me, but he played like Worf's great grandfather or something.
Yeah,
like that.
Michael Dorn. He was the lawyer for Kirk in Star Trek 6.
Right, that's right.
And he's like an ancestor of
so
Worf.
Right, but when you said about becoming an ambassador, that's my mind went there, and I'm like, no, that's not right. That's wrong.
But I do think that gets dropped at some point. That he's somewhere along the line. I feel like that was a thing.
That he was an ambassador of some
kind.
That
he became an ambassador. Maybe that's, I don't know if it's for a comic or something.
Right. Yeah.
But I somewhere along the line, I felt like that was like a canon that he had become.
Oh, well, we'll have to wait and see what they come up with, right? Yeah. So, all right. So, yeah, I mean, other than Picard, I mean, I know Discovery is out, but neither one of us haven't started on that yet. And I know Strange New Worlds is coming soon, but I'm not sure when that is either.
I don't know what the date is. The Star Trek Prodigy is out too. I haven't seen any of that.
I haven't either.
Discovery, I plan on getting to. I just haven't gotten to it yet.
Same here. It's one of those things. I'm like, all right, I'll get to it eventually. But
there's so much coming out, and it's like right after the other. They're on top of each other, and it's just hard to watch.
You hate to complain because for geeks, it's a gold mine, but it's almost getting to be too much. Like, I mean, you're going to have to start picking and choosing, I think, eventually, and then the stuff that you're going to be like, well, I'll get to that later.
Right. I mean, it's before we were like something dropped and we were right on top of it. And now it's just kind of like, well, I'll get to it.
Yeah.
There's so much.
I'll watch it later.
But so hopefully by the next episode, I'll have gotten through Doctor Who and started Star Trek Discovery.
Yeah, right. So, all right. Well, I guess that wraps up Star Trek. What do we have after that? Marvel?
We have. So we got.
It's giving you a run for the money tonight.
It is good. It is. There we go.
There you go. Yeah. So we have right.
And this. Go ahead.
So we have for Marvel, we have we got the Moonlight trailer. And this is the next show that's coming out for them, right? Because right. So what'd you think of this? I mean, I know we've kind of gone back and forth on Moonlight a little bit, and I don't know much about the character, but this looks really good. I thought I was really interested in this.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't know a lot about him either. I mean, what I did start last year. I have a subscription to Marvel Unlimited. So I was like, you know what, I knew this was coming, so I was like, let me go back and try to read some of these Moon Knight comics. And I wanted to read more than I have, but what I did was I went way back to the very beginning and I read those.
Oh, okay.
And what I think's going on here is apparently Moon Knight has always had this sort of like, he has like 3 personalities or 3 alter egos basically.
Okay.
And at least in the original comics, that was like, it was almost, they weren't like necessarily like personalities, like they were almost like disguises, I guess. You know, he was like, he portrayed like 3 different people to do different things, like a kind of a detective. But so in the old comics, it was like a conscious choice almost.
Right.
But it seems like here that's not the case. Like, and I think that's, at least from what I've picked up, the newer comics, it's more of a
like a mental disorder,
a mental thing, right?
Yeah.
So, and I think that's what we see playing out here in this trailer, is that he doesn't necessarily have control over these different personalities. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I think that's an interesting aspect, but beyond that, I really don't know much about this character at all. So it's hard for me.
I know. But, I know there's some Egyptian element to it. I know, like at the end of this trailer, when the costume starts wrapping like around him, it almost kind of looks like a mummy-ish. The way that it's like bandages or something like that. So I know that has an element to it, but again, I'm not 100% sure what it is. So this will be kind of fun though, because I mean, they're kind of, it's not, not the main tier heroes now. So it's like they can kind of do, like, they have a little bit more freedom here, and it's really just, it's really just introducing a lot of people to this character that you don't know about. So it's kind of, it'll be kind of fun, I think. Yeah,
and he's great. I mean, Oscar, I think, however his character played out in Star Wars, I think Oscar Isaac is a good actor.
He's a really good actor, right? It's a shame he was wasted in Star Wars, basically, in the sequel trilogy. Because he's really good in this. Just in this short trailer, he's good. I've seen him in other stuff. He's just a good actor, though.
Yeah, so I'm excited to see him in this and see how he does with it. But I think the show looks really interesting. I like the aspect, like you were saying. At least the original origin is that he's almost like the original origin is that he's like some kind of like mercenary, and he gets killed in an Egyptian temple. And that's how he becomes Moon Knight. At least that's the original comics are from the like 70s or 80s. I forget when he became a character. That was the original origin. So what happens to him? But I know that they've changed him since, right?
They do that, they modernize, every so many years somebody will come out with a new take on them, and they do that with all the characters, there'll be a new, and they'll modernize it and stuff like that. So it should be pretty cool though. Like it suits not what I expected, but it looks pretty cool.
I heard somebody at one point, like years ago, before Moon Knight was ever contemplated as part of the MCU or a TV show or anything like that. I heard somebody compare him to Batman, that he's sort of like Marvel's Batman. Right. So I don't know how accurate that is, but I remember somebody saying that, and obviously Batman didn't die and come back to life or have 3 different personalities, but I definitely think in this trailer, and we saw it in the original teaser trailer, like when there's that scene where he jumps from the rooftop, and it's clearly a bat, like inspired by Batman, because it's like he's silhouetted against the moon, and so that's so maybe that's where they're going.
The thing I remember, it was it has more to do with the artwork than anything else, but like in the late 80s 90s and stuff, whenever they would draw Batman, they would draw him with this massive cape blowing in the wind, and it was very artsy, right? And so I remember seeing Moon Knight on various things, and again, didn't know anything about him, but I remember they would draw him very similar with the big cape and all that stuff. So I think the silhouettes, and I think there's a lot of stuff like that where it's, basically a caped vigilante, but I think they draw from each other. They draw inspiration from, probably a little bit more so Moonlight from Batman than the other way around, but still.
Right.
Yeah, but right, like that sequence there, he's beating somebody up on the floor there. That's all Batman.
Yeah, right. I mean, it just like the suit looks pretty cool. I mean, it's just a little different because it's all white.
Yeah, right. That throws you.
I'm looking forward to it. And this is another one we're going to get. This is a March release. I don't know.
Oh, is it too?
I don't know what the date is.
Yeah.
So March is going to be packed, man. Like, I know, right? There's a bunch of stuff coming out. Yeah, so something to look forward to.
Yeah, that'll be fun. That's good. Yeah, and then other than this, I don't know. I know the She-Hulk is coming, and I know Ms. Marvel, I think, is coming, but I think they're later in the year. I don't think we're getting them anytime soon.
Yeah, I'm totally between all the changes and now the releases have all been moved around. I have no idea when anything is coming at this point.
So
but we are getting Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness is when?
I think that's March too.
That's March.
I think that was supposed to be March, and I think they pushed that to May. I think.
So where are we getting any? I don't know when the next movie is.
Yeah, are you getting a clicking noise in your ears?
No.
Nope. It just stopped. All right. Yeah, so I'm not sure. I'm not sure when the let me look it up right now. Here, so we had that Doctor. May 6th. Okay.
All
right. Yeah. So next we have Doctor Strange. That's definitely in May. That's May 6th. So I guess it'll be Moon Knight, then Doctor Strange, and then after that, everything's a blur at this point. I can't remember.
Yeah, I can't keep track of any of it anymore. I don't know when anything is happening. But I'm looking forward to it. Marvel. I mean, we've got a lot of good stuff coming up. A lot of stuff that looks like it's that's a lot of good stuff that looks like it's going to be really enjoyable.
Yeah, I definitely think so. So, all right, well, I guess that wraps up Marvel. What else did we have here? Anything else to talk about?
What else did I have? The only thing here was Batman, unless you had something else.
They released I think it's another Batman trailer. And to be truthful, I haven't paid that close of attention to Batman. I know there's a new movie coming out. I think that might also be March, if not May or
I think
March.
I think you're right. I think it is March.
Okay, so it looks good. It's another Batman movie, so I at this point I can't get that excited about it. I mean, it's just another take on Batman, so I'm sure I'll see it, but we'll see. I don't know. I'm not sure.
Batman is March 4th.
Okay, all right. So, I don't know. I mean, did you have any thoughts on Batman?
I really don't. Again, it's everything's sort of. I initially thought this was coming out much later than it is.
Okay, right. Yeah.
So I wasn't even right. I was sort of paying attention, but not really. And then I realized, oh no, it's coming out next month or in March. So, I haven't even seen the latest trailer for this, but I heard somebody say, and whether it's accurate or not, I have no idea, but like I've heard somebody say that this is going to be more like a horror movie kind of thing.
Oh, all right. Maybe.
I don't know. So, but I'm going to go see it.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know. We'll probably get together and go see it.
I know, right? Go check it out.
So I'm in.
Yeah, right. It's something. We'll have to see about this one. The only other thing I was going to mention for DC is there's on HBO Max, it's called Peacemaker.
Yes, I wanted to ask you about this. Go ahead.
So Peacemaker was in the most recent Suicide Squad movie, which was by James Gunn. And then James Gunn continued his story into this Peacemaker TV show, which is on HBO, and I think I don't know how many episodes. I think there's been 4 so far.
Yeah.
It's really good. It's really funny. It's if you didn't see Suicide Squad, I mean, it's basically rated R Guardians of the Galaxy. I mean, it's quirky, it's weird, it's funny. There's music and stuff like that. But I mean, it's definitely a hard R.
Okay.
There's lots of cursing and all that stuff. But it's been really good. I really enjoyed it. I was surprised. I was surprised at how much I liked it. It was good. It's good.
Okay. Yeah. I this is what I wanted to ask you about, because when did in the comics, when did Peacemaker become a thing? Like, when was his origin?
I think he was in the 60s. He used to be published by a company called Charlton Comics.
Okay.
And like they had Peacemaker, Captain Atom, Blue Beetle, Nightshade, Judo Master, who's actually in the current show. I'm forgetting somebody. But then DC bought them, or they went out of business, and DC absorbed them. And then during the crisis, they absorbed them into their universe. And then like Blue Beetle started showing up everywhere. But the other characters got either series or mini series, and that's when Peacemaker first showed up on my radar. And
okay, so he first showed up in the DC universe in the 80s.
Yes.
Okay, because this is what, and I didn't even. I haven't seen the latest Suicide Squad. I intend to, but I haven't watched it yet. So right. I know that he was in that.
Right.
But never paid any attention to anything until the show. I started seeing stuff about the show.
Okay.
And he's wearing his helmet.
Right.
And I was like, holy crap, that character was in those Vigilante comics that I used to collect.
Yes, that's right.
And I was like, is that guy? and so I went and I looked it up, and it is like, so he was in those Vigilante comics, and I have even heard there is apparently either he is going to appear, like apparently the Vigilante
he's in it
is okay. All right. So I was like, what?
So now this might be disappointing for you, but Vigilante in the Peacemaker show is Vigilante. It is Adrian Chase, but he's much more goofy. He kind of almost reminds you of Deadpool to an extent.
Okay.
So he's much sillier than, because the comics were actually very, very serious.
Right.
Yeah. So
and that's what when I saw the helmet, because I remember even when I was collecting, I think one of the reasons I liked that comic was that it was very, I mean, the situations were fantastical, of course, but it was very real world.
Yes,
right?
Yeah.
Like it was like something that it was all sort of ground, like there were no real superheroes running around or anything like that. It was all sort of like gritty.
Yeah, I mean,
Vigilante real world stuff.
I mean, his it's all stylized in the show, but in the comic, it was literally a ski mask and ski goggles, right?
Right.
Isn't that what he wore?
Exactly. Right. And that was one of the things I liked about the comic. And then when Peacemaker showed up, I was like, what is this guy? Right.
Right.
And so
that's so funny. Yeah.
So it didn't click at like the name. None of that clicked until I saw the helmet in an advertisement, and I was like, wait a minute.
You're right.
That's
so funny. That's funny.
So then I read it, and I was like, apparently he's going to show up in the show, and I was like, get the hell out of here.
It's a shame because I was just saying how good the show is, but it's a shame because I remember those comics, and they were very serious. And I think, because remember Vigilante, like he was like, over the course of the series, wasn't Vigilante multiple people? Like, didn't like the one guy got killed and then something else, and like,
well, he started out, he was originally Adrian Chase.
Yeah, right.
And then Adrian Chase gave it up.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
And then somebody else picked up the mantle, and then he got killed.
I think Peacemaker kills him.
Okay.
I think I remember.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
I think you're right. So that guy gets killed. I think there's like there ends up being like 3 different vigilantes, but then Adrian Chase picks it up at the end.
Right. Which was at the end, right?
Right. And then he dies.
Yeah, right. I remember that. Yeah, right.
Spoiler alert.
Well, that's the one where he kills himself.
He kills himself, right?
Yes.
That's how it ends. And it's
Right.
like I remember, like, as a kid, like, I mean, I guess we weren't kids. I mean, we were teenagers, but it was like that comic was it was sort of like, wow, this isn't like a kid's thing. This is
Well, those were always, I remember they were labeled for mature readers, and as a kid, and when you're reading that stuff, you don't think about that. I mean, I don't remember it being over the top. Like if something was labeled mature readers today, it'd either be extremely graphic or it'd be extremely violent. And I don't remember them being too bad. I mean,
I mean, they were, I would say they were more violent than, like, there was a lot of him, like, just beating the hell out of people.
Okay.
Like, I mean, and there was gun, I mean, but I mean,
it's probably in all the comics now.
Like, I think I remember like the panels would be like, there'd be a lot of blood and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
So,
all right, so maybe
I think it was a little bit more graphic than like your normal run of the mill comic. But all that I was like, wow,
that's so funny, right?
Yeah, like because that comic never even like it didn't. It's not like it was this huge. I mean, how many? Like there were like 50 of them.
I think 50 was the last issue. I remember buying that for you. As a matter of fact, because that's the one. Because of course I read it before I gave it to you. Yeah. Like, oh crap, this guy just killed himself. Yeah. But that was that was a 50th issue. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, and then then the character, that guy died, and then there was a female version that she showed up in a couple comics I remember over the years. But it was just kind of like it just happened and that was it. And so for them to be bringing that stuff back, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Anyway. Okay.
Yeah.
So I was excited to talk to you about that. I'm glad you brought it up because I completely forgot about it.
Yeah. So I'd forgotten about it. I'd forgot about I knew Vigilante was in the show and all that. I just forgot about him being in Peacemaker, being in his old comic. So that's pretty funny.
Yeah. So anyway. I want to watch that show. I haven't started it yet, but I really want to watch it.
Yeah. It's ridiculous. I mean, it's like I said, it's like Guardians. It's very silly and over the top, but I liked it. It's fun. It's good.
Yeah. I have to watch Suicide Squad before I see it.
So Suicide Squad. It was good. It was a good movie. It just it lacks what Marvel has, which is the connections to all the universe, at this point I'm a fan of the Marvel universe, and so I'm much more willing to like try like a Moon Knight to say like, oh, like I like the Marvel universe, I'll watch Moon Knight, oh, I really like that, whereas Suicide Squad I was like, oh, I like James Gunn, I'll watch it for him, and I like DC, I like their comics from the back in the day, so I liked all that, but it was missing a few, it just is missing that connection type of thing. So
right. So
anyway,
all right. That wrap us up for tonight. Do you have anything else?
No, I think that's it. I think we're good to go.
All right. Well, with that, we're going to wrap up the show. We appreciate you listening tonight, as always. If you can, go out and leave us a review on iTunes. Apparently, Spotify has its own rating system now, so you can go if you go out, if you listen to us via Spotify, you can leave us a review out there too. You can follow us on Facebook and Twitter. We're at Geek Hangout Pod, and then we have we're in Instagram too. So follow us at all those places. And of course, we're recording the show. You can watch us on YouTube if you prefer to see our lovely faces.
Yeah, right.
In person. But with that, thanks again, everybody, and we will talk to you next time. Good night.
All right. Good night, everyone. Thanks for listening.